Hidden across the American Midwest, the burial mounds of the Hopewell culture serve as silent witness to a civilization that flourished long before European contact. From 200 BC to 500 AD, roughly, the Hopewell people built complex earthworks. They had extensive trade networks, and of course, they had intricate burial mounds that provide a window into the spiritual beliefs and societal organization that they had. Today, in this video, I'm going to take a journey through these ancient burial mounds and explore their significance and also hopefully uncover the mysteries of the Hopewell culture, one of North America's most fascinating pre-Columbian civilizations. The Hopewell culture is often associated with a network of societies that shared similar burial practices, art styles, and trade networks across what is now the eastern United States. This culture is best known for its mound building tradition, which included both burial mounds and earthworks that were used for ceremonial and religious purposes. These mounds weren't just places of burial, but they also served as powerful symbols of identity, status, and spiritual beliefs. The Hopewell people are believed to have been organized in loosely connected communities that engaged in complex social, spiritual, and economic practices. Though their society had no written records that we know of, the mounds they left behind speak volumes about their way of life and the deeply spiritual worldview they held. At the core of the Hopewell culture were the burial mounds, many of which were constructed with impressive precision. These mounds, often circular or conical in shape, were used to bury the dead, and their placement and contents were carefully arranged. The largest and most notable burial mounds can be found mostly in Ohio in sites like Mound City and the High Bank Works. The mounds themselves could be simple or complex, but they always served as an important focal point in the lives of the community. The practice of mound building was deeply connected to the people's spiritual beliefs, as it's thought that they saw the mounds as a way to connect with the spiritual world. When it comes to burial practices, the Hopewell mounds reveal a fascinating glimpse into their social structure. The bodies of the deceased were often placed in specific orientations, and grave goods, items such as pottery, jewelry, and ceremonial artifacts were carefully placed around the body. These grave goods were not only offerings for the afterlife, but also indicators of the person's status in the society. The most elaborate burials, often reserved for the elite, included finely crafted copper objects, different beads, and different shell ornaments. The use of exotic materials like obsidian and mica, items that had been traded from distant regions, suggests that the Hopewell people were part of a very, very broad and complex trade network that extended well beyond their immediate communities. I have a couple videos on my channel talking about this ancient trade network, so if that interests you, make sure to check those out. But nonetheless, the elite burials were often included. They often included the remains of sacrificed animals as well, such as birds or even dogs, which were thought to be pets that accompanied the deceased on their journey to the afterlife, highlighting the strong spiritual connection between the living and the dead. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Hopewell burial mounds is the wealth of exotic artifacts found within them. These items suggest that the Hopewell people were not only local farmers and craftspeople, but also active participants in a vast trade network that stretched across much of North America. Artifacts such as copper ornaments, beads made of marine shells, and flint tools were sourced from distant regions, some as far away as the Great Lakes, the Gulf Coast, and the Rocky Mountains. The presence of these materials points to the Hopewell's extensive exchange networks, which of course linked them to other cultures and communities and ultimately spread the Hopewell cultures to said cultures and communities. That was a crucial part of these extensive exchange networks. In burial mounds, these trade goods were often laid alongside the deceased to serve as offerings for the afterlife or as symbols of the deceased status. These items not only demonstrate the reach and wealth of the Hopewell people, but also reinforce the hierarchical nature of their society, where access to these exotic goods were restricted to those in positions of power. The artifacts uncovered in the burial mounds give us a detailed picture of the Hopewells' lives, beliefs, and customs. Pottery is one of the most common finds within the burial mounds, and the pottery was often decorated with intricate geometric designs, animal motifs, and different symbols. These vessels were used in both daily life and ceremonial contexts, providing an insight into the material culture of the Hopewell people. In addition to pottery, stone effigies, copper and mica sheets, carved bone, and many other things have been found in these mounds. These items were likely used in rituals and ceremonies, emphasizing the spiritual connection between the living and the dead. Some burial mounds even contained effigy pipes shaped like birds or other animals, suggesting that ceremonial smoking or offerings were part of their burial rites. Perhaps the most fascinating items found in these burial sites are the mica and copper plates, which often placed on the bodies or arranged on the mound's surface. These shiny materials, which could be easily polished to a brilliant sheen, had a ceremonial purpose, likely serving as symbols of the sun or other celestial forces. By the time the Hopewell culture began to decline around 400 AD, the elaborate burial mound tradition also started to fade. While the exact reasons for this decline are unclear, it's likely due to a combination of environmental changes, social upheaval, and potentially shifting trade routes. The collapse of the Hopewell network may have led to the disbandment of one of the most powerful communities that built the mounds. However, despite the fall of the Hopewell culture, many of the traditions they established would influence later cultures, particularly the Mississippian and other modern-day Native American tribes. The Hopewell culture's burial practices and their focus on spirituality and the afterlife would resonate through generations of indigenous Americans who came after them. The burial mounds of the Hopewell culture provides us with a profound connection to a world that once existed but is no longer visible to the eye. Through their burial practices, the Hopewell people left behind a legacy of art, spirituality, architecture, and community that continues to captivate us today. As we examine these ancient earthworks and the treasures found within, we gain valuable insights into the ways in which they shaped their society, honored their ancestors, and connected with the forces of nature. If you found this video on the burial mounds of the Hopewell culture fascinating, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth exploration of ancient American cultures. I got tons and tons of videos on my channel talking about this stuff, you guys. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I love you.